Hello, you're back with Amusement Mark, and I want to show you how to make the coaster alley. This is where you'll do your Bible study, so everyone's going to be very interested. How am I going to build a roller coaster in my Bible study room? Maybe even one that the boys and girls could actually sit in. That's what I was going for. And so I want to show you how I built this roller coaster. I'm going to start first of all with the backdrop, because whenever you have a backdrop, you need to be able to get it as large as you can, but don't worry if it doesn't cover the whole wall. Just go ahead and make it cover one part. Some people make the mistake of trying to decorate an entire room when really you just need to have a focal area. So this is our focal area. We made the backdrop and then we used the trees to kind of frame it in. Let me show you how I made it. I used a king size blue sheet. You know, I think if you're going to buy a sheet to make a backdrop on, go ahead and get king size, because you can always make it smaller, but you can't ever make it bigger. So start with a large one. And what I did was I hung it with bungee cords in my garage, and then I cut out of a box kind of a cloud shape, and I used some white spray paint, and I held it up here, and I just spray painted it, and then took it away, and it left that edge. And the clouds are going to be kind of translucent so you can see through them. And so I went back with a little bit of white when it dried, because I wanted it to have a little bit of a white, more white areas, the highlight of the cloud. And so keep that in mind. These few clouds took almost a whole can of white spray paint. That's how much paint I used on them. So that way you'll be able to have an idea. I used the very same template in order to make the tree foliage here on the bottom. So what I did was I came in and I did this lighter green all across the bottom, and then I came back with some of the darker green. Every time, just spraying it and pulling away. Don't worry about making any kind of details like tree limbs or branches, because those are going to be the parts that your artist type people will come in here and do a great job with. But really, it gives you the idea that there's trees in the park, and that's really all you need. Remember, this is a backdrop. It's not just a painting to hang in your living room. So you can just give the suggestion of what it's going to be. And then I just took some lines and I made some hills and some turns with a Sharpie marker, and went back and put another line next to it. And that way it would make the track. And then just put the rungs like on a ladder all the way across it. Once I had built all the ladders with the marker, then I came back and thought, well, there has to be a pole that would be holding this up. And so I just drew a pole straight down like the letter A, over and over, holding up these tracks. And so everywhere I thought there ought to be one, I did it. I think you can get too many poles in here, so just kind of put in a few braces and don't worry about it. I kind of think this is a weak track. I would never go on it, but you know what I mean. It just gives a suggestion that those are the poles that hold up the track. Again, it's the backdrop, so don't try to make a big artist rendering of that. Okay. We brought back the trees, we brought back the fence, we have the turf from the opening rally worship area, and so we can reuse the same type of things in different rooms. We don't have to reinvent everything. Now, let's think about this roller coaster for just a minute. To build a car that the boys and girls could ride in or could sit in, and try to make it look believable. I mean, we know it's a prop, but how would you do it? First of all, let's start with this box. This is just a box that I went to the box company here in town, and I said, I'm looking for a box because I don't want any writing on it. That way when I paint it, it doesn't have to be covered up or anything, and it's easier to work with. And what I did was, this box was this long, and I just put in the very middle of the box a mark, and then I decided how far up I wanted this car to be. And then I just made 2 lines go into it and cut those lines. Now, you can score it without cutting all the way through, and then it'll fold down. And so I did that on both sides and just folded it down. And then I set it down all the way to the ground. And then I was able to do the same on the bottom and pull them up. And I taped it with red duct tape on the edges. And then I put the point on with some scrap material. I just needed about, scrap. It wasn't very much at all to put on the front. Duct tape those as well. Now I painted the whole thing red and I didn't want you to see my duct tape quite as easily, so I put the blue stripe going on here with some blue or aqua color duct tape. And so that way you don't see those lines quite as easily. And then after we put all that together, put it up here, and I added a touch light. So see, you can put a couple of lights on just to give it a little effect. And then I added some black plates. They're like the dessert size plate from the party store, and I went ahead and put those on to be the wheels. Now, all this duct tape and stuff was the easiest thing to put on. If you prefer to paint stripes, then you've got the patience of Job. But if you just want to use tape, it works great. Now, I knew that I wanted to use red and aqua to be in the seats. You can make your roller coaster any color you want it to be. And so I used aqua sheets from pillowcases from Walmart. Now, this is that high thread count, like the backdrop of 200. And so anyway, don't worry about buying expensive sheets or pillowcases because you're going to use them as props. So let me take apart the chair first. Now, I did two different kinds of seat belts, and I want to show you. First of all, I used some straps like you would use in the back of a pickup with hooks and a crank. I just bought some straps like that, and then I only used a couple of them in order to make the seat belt links. But you know what? You could probably put those on, and you could even thread out some if you wanted it to be a harness that would come down in the front. You make it as elaborate as you want it to be. Here's two different buckles. We used one just with foil tape that they use whenever they put like ductwork into a house and they hook them all together. It's just a silver tape. You could use gray duct tape too. And then we used a sardine can as well. And what I did was cut it with an X-Acto knife on both sides, and I just threaded it through. But the bottom of a sardine can looks more like a buckle, and it doesn't have any writing or anything on it. So that was pretty easy to use. You just gotta find your sardine eaters out there and start getting to work with them. All right, so let's take this apart. We have a children's chair from the department that this group is gonna be in, and this is a king-size sheet. We did slit it up the sides so that way it would lay in the seat of the chair as well as all the way down in the back. And then we used a piece of foam, and you can get this foam at the craft store. You can get a couple of squares in a package. And I actually went on a coupon day, so I was able to even get them cheaper. Cut it with scissors. This is not hard to do, and we got two out of this each time. And then what we did was put the foam in the pillowcase, the round part to the top, and then over the chair. And here's the trick to making the top look round. And you probably already figured it out. Get this over here. Looks like I could make more beds, and I know how to do this. All right. And so what you could do is simply take the corner and tuck it in back here on both sides. Just make a little pocket, tuck it in. Now you could, if you wanted, to go ahead and have someone sew those or glue those shut. You can do that. Here's the seat belts. Put that in here. And there you go. You want to secure those to the top of the chair so that way they won't fall over like that did. We did use the artwork to put on here, but I think if you got some of that iron-on paper from Target or from the craft store or something, and you were able to download the artwork, then you could just put it on that transfer paper, and you could actually iron them on to that. We used some of the foam that we used. It's called pipe insulation that we used on the track. And we put that right here on the top of the sidecar walls. And so you can see how we did the sidecar walls. It's just a piece that goes under the chair, and then we tape it to the chair, and we put the little foam on there so it'd be like a little bumper on it. On the back, I added a couple of reflectors, so it's the end of the car, and even some tape that shows it's the end of the car. Now let's think about this track for a minute. I showed you how to make this track specifically in the worship rally. And so you use this silver wrap that you put around like hot water tanks and put the pipe on it. But I thought it'd be best to give you another idea, and that is just with some poster board. Some of you may have poster board available and wouldn't really cost too much out of your VBS budget. And so here's the trick on this. I used gray duct tape and black electrical tape. And so you're going to want to just put a stripe on each end and then in the middle. And then I added the black, and stay on one side each time. So that would be the shadow of the track. But notice on the second piece, I didn't do one on the very end. I did them in the middle, 3 in the middle. So that way, when you hook them together, then you'll have the space. And then these will store very, very easily whenever you need to store them. Let me lay it out here on the ground so you can take a look. And so what you do is just butt it up next to the other one, and it looks like a solid track. So I encourage you, maybe consider this as an alternative for building a track, and I think you'll have really good success. I want to point out to you how we made the wooden deck. You know, you could probably use some brown sheets and you could paint them or something, but it seems like there's a wooden deck whenever you're able to walk up to a roller coaster. We were able to locate these flannel back tablecloths, and they're for a long table, and so we just put 2 of them out here. And so maybe if you look around, you might be able to find something that's a wood grain pattern to it, and that'll work perfect. So look around. So get right to work in building your roller coaster for Coaster Alley.